So it is late autumn, early winter 1944. Allied troops have cleared the area around Antwerp. There's this narrow salient into Holland, and our forces are approaching the German border. There's even an American and British attack called Operation Dragoon up the Rhone River Valley that lands in southern France, and they join up too. So we have a Western Front that's here in late 44. In late 44, there's a German pocket up here, and the Russians are moving into Central and Eastern Europe, like so. And in Yugoslavia, there's a partisan army that has been waging a guerrilla war against the Germans for a while, and in Greece, the same thing. So the Russians are coming in from the east, and the Anglo-Americans from the west. And they finally have enough gas in order to, thanks to opening Antwerp, in order to continue the advance into Germany. But then winter hits. Hitler has been gathering up reserve forces and new weapons like the Sturmgewehr 44, the world's first genuine assault rifle. He has jets, fighters, the Me-262. He has the V-1 cruise missile. He has the V-2 strategic ballistic missile. Hitler is ready for one final attack. And his calculation is, if he wastes his attack on the Russians, it won't matter. The Russians are just a mass of troops. If he attacks the British are going to keep fighting. But the Americans, with their desire to go back to the easy living in the United States and to win the war, they seem like the psychologically most profitable target. What Hitler is going to do is he's going to launch his attack, his last great attack, through the Ardennes forest, which is the same place his troops attacked through to France in 1940. Except this time, his forces are going to go north. They are going to cut right through the American forces, separate them from a lot of British forces, and they're going to drive on Antwerp with the intent of cutting off the Allies from their supplies. And his intent is to do huge damage to the American army. He's got large numbers of American Bundes. The Deutsche American Bund was a German-American fraternal society before World War II that was Nazi-oriented. And at the beginning of the war, while America was still neutral, a lot of Americans of German descent went back to the fatherland to fight for Germany. And these guys grew up speaking English. They knew American colloquialisms. They knew baseball. They knew jazz music. And they were gathered into special units. They were given American uniforms from captured soldiers. They were given forged documents, and they were dressed mostly as military police. Before this attack, these German forces were secreted by parachute and by sneaking across behind enemy lines, so that when the attack happened, they could change road signs, misdirect Americans, shoot people in the back, behave like allies until the right moment, and then these spies, these infiltrators, caused a lot of death when the Germans finally attacked. Now, the first way that our troops began to deal with this is any stranger was held at rifle point. Who won the World Series of 1939? Who was the most valuable player in 1941? What? Who is the player that they call the Iron Horse? And they'd ask questions from American baseball, American movies, American music, American pop culture. Who has the greatest legs in all of Hollywood? Betty Grable. Who was the Iron Horse? Lou Gehrig. And the idea was any red-blooded real American would know about Betty Grable's legs, and they would know about the Iron Horse on the Yankees. They'd know who won Most Valuable Player and who won the World Series and a bunch of other things. They'd know who Satchmo was, Louis Armstrong. They'd know all this stuff about American pop culture. Real Americans. This is not, though, the best way of doing things, of course. But then we discovered the most German of errors. When the Germans were forging our identification papers, these were actually listed as identification. But with British advice, our intelligence people misspelled the word identification as indentification. All of our identification papers were spelled IND rather than IDEN. Indentification papers. The Germans, with their compulsivity, corrected the spelling. As we realized this, all you had to do was ask to see an American's papers. And if they had identification papers, you hold them prisoner as a spy, or you shoot them. If they had indentification papers, they were probably legit. The Germans corrected the spelling on our identification papers. Now, during this attack, when Americans were captured, this was part of Hitler's psychological warfare campaign. At Malmedy Forest, over 200 American prisoners of war were shot in the back by Germans. This was a massacre. It was designed to scare the Americans and make them go away. A lot of the totalitarians then, and honestly now, look at us as soft and weak. And they think if you hurt Americans enough, we'll go away. Well, the calculation didn't work. We got angry. We didn't go away. We fought harder when we found out about the Malmedy massacre and others. Now, there was a key road junction in the Ardennes, the city of Bastogne. Bastogne, as it was called by the Americans, was early in the battle occupied by the elite force of the 101st Airborne Division of the American Army, the Screaming Eagles. And these guys did not break. These were light infantry, but elite light infantry. And instead of the Germans going through them, the Germans went around them. Bastogne, the road junction that would have made the German attack much more efficient, was denied to the Germans by this 101st Airborne Division and their stubborn fighting. The German commander sent a message to the American commander. General Maxwell Taylor, the head of the 101st, was away conferencing. So his vice commander was the one who took the message. The vice commander was given the message to the American commander from the German commander. The honor of war has been satisfied. Your people have sacrificed enough. Now comes the time to think about your men and to surrender. Very eloquent, ornate, polite message from the German to the American general. What General McAuliffe, the vice commander of the 101st Airborne, responds is with a one-word reply that first the Germans are befuddled by. Finally, it gets back to the German commander from the American commander. Nuts. That's all. Just nuts. And nuts is sort of an American colloquialism for you can just bite me. The Germans figure this out, and they continue their attack, but they don't break up. Late in the battle, the weather changes. Up until now, the Germans attacked under a really bad set of weather that kept American airport power out of the air. But late in the battle, General Patton's Third Army, in the middle of a fight around Metz, turns 90 degrees north and relieves Bastogne. This is one of the truly great examples of generalship in modern warfare. Patton takes an entire army that's fully engaged, turns it 90 degrees, and goes north and joins up with the paratroopers, rescues the paratroopers, many say. But the paratroopers are very proud. They say, oh, we didn't need Patton. They kind of did. In any case, the Battle of the Bulge is the last hurrah of the German Wehrmacht, the German war force on the Western Front. After that, Patton is moving into southern Germany and Czechoslovakia, and the British are moving into northern Germany, and we encounter the Soviets at a place called Torgau. Breaking across the last barrier into Germany meant crossing the Rhine River. General Montgomery made a typically Montgomery massively planned battle out of it, including airborne artillery. The Germans knew exactly where he was going to attack, but his forces made a big deal of crossing the Rhine. What drove Montgomery nuts was that two things happened before that. First of all, General Patton was secretly given the go-ahead by Bradley to cross the Rhine where it was shallow in the north, and Patton, being an aggressive commander who didn't care much about planning, just went across and surprised the Germans and everyone else by being the first to cross the Rhine. Also, at Remagen, the Germans accidentally left a bridge across the Rhine River intact. When the American First Army found it, they went across. So before Montgomery makes his famous crossing of the Rhine, two separate American army groups, the 3rd and the 1st, have already crossed the Rhine to the south. And then our forces move in. Now we come to the last act in the European theater of operations.